fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren. Heard on KCAA 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
Okay, I'm back. And joining me, as we talked about earlier, Andrea Mesich. And let's just get into it. How are you doing, first of all, today?
I am doing fantastic. Is that like, well, okay, I'm doing good. I'm not quite fantastic. That was an over-exaggeration, but I'm good. I'm good.
It's nothing wrong with fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic is good.
Yeah.
Here we are. So, kind of the beginning of winter. And,
not for me.
No, I know.
No. We've had winter now since October. I mean, we had snow all the way up to my head already. So.
Oh, see, that's sick.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I have to live in this.
That's sick. You know, it's funny. People complain about the Northwest, but yeah, we get some rain, but my God.
Yeah.
If we get a snowfall, it lasts maybe a day. Maybe.
Yeah. And it makes national news. You get a dusting on the ground, and it's the snowpocalypse.
Yeah, well, it is. You know the reason why is because nobody has snow tires.
Exactly.
And then they all drive off the interstate.
Yep.
And it's really funny. And then the city realizes they have no sand trucks or anything.
Oh,
so,
boy, yeah.
It can be messy, but it's funny. It just almost never happens. So I'm happy.
That's true. Yeah.
But just stay home.
Yeah, I wish I had that excuse, but when you got like 10 feet of snow outside and you got to get going, you can't stay in all winter, but...
Yeah, I can.
I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's it. I'm done, I won't go anywhere. No,
yeah.
No, forget it.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, we had 45-degree weather today, and it actually felt like summer. We were all in our short-sleeve shirts and...
Wow, that's short weather.
It's beautiful. I mean, this is like go to the beach and go swimming.
Yeah, get your suntanning lotion out.
Exactly.
Oh, my. So, lots of exciting stuff going on right now. Hey, so you heard about all the shooting there in Australia?
Yeah. In fact, I think I just read that the actual guy who took everybody hostage was killed, and sadly, 2 of the hostages also passed away, which... Yeah, that was really sad, but I'm glad that a lot of them made it out and that they made it out safe. So,
yeah, it's pretty interesting. There's a big conspiracy theory going on now, hey? I don't know if you've heard this. What do you think of conspiracy theories?
I guess it depends on the conspiracy theory. I mean, I think there are some legitimacy to some conspiracy theories, like when you're talking about how smartphones and Google and the state of technology and how people are continuously watching you, because you go on Google, like I'll just search on Google for something and then I go to Facebook and there it is, like advertising nonstop all over the place. And they're doing it with smart TVs now where you'll be watching a show and based on like the things that you type into your TV, all of a sudden they'll come up with all of these ads and they're kind of like really getting invasive. So I mean, conspiracy theories like that, I can see the validity, but there are some like that I guess it depends on the theory.
Well, I kind of walk around my house all the time thinking I'm being watched, so
yeah.
So it's okay.
If you got cats, you're probably right.
Oh, yeah. No, actually dogs. I do a dog rescue, so.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I've got them staring at me now. No, no, actually, now, get this. This is a pretty weird one now. Mm-hmm. They're saying that these shootings and that guy that's been out in the open about his dislike and whatever for Western world kind of thing.
Yeah.
That he was put up by the U.S. to do that.
I did hear that.
And same as the event that happened up in Canada too.
Yeah.
And what they're trying to do is to get the other countries more involved. Isn't that's kind of weird?
Yeah, on one hand, I could kind of see the government doing something like that, just because our government. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. Our government's messed up.
Yeah, they're all the same.
They're literally all the same. You vote in the Republicans because you think they're going to do something about a lot of the crap that's been going on, and they just status quo. But at the same time, for me, I can't see that. I mean, I could see it happening, but I don't believe that's what it is. I just believe that there are people out there that actually have such deep-seated hate for some different people, and that they just go about and they act on it.
Yeah.
And I mean, hate is a bad thing. When you have someone that's just such deep-seated hate like that, because I say there's people I hate when in actuality I just dislike them and I could care less. But there are some people that have such a hate that it's literally either they have to hurt somebody or they're going to hurt themselves.
Yeah.
And I just think that like the case in Canada and like the case here, I really think that's what this probably is.
Yeah.
But that's just me. What do I know? I'm just,
Well, I think it's great. I think it's good to have opinion and talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
If anything, we need to talk more.
Exactly.
And when it comes to the labeling, and like you were saying, party, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat or what you want. In fact, I'd rather have them not label people like that when they're doing interviews or talking to them. I'd rather have them just come on and say, this person here, and hear what they say. I'd rather hear what the person says and decide whether I want to vote for them or back them or not.
Yeah.
There's other stuff I don't get. Everything's labeled. Colored and named and the whole thing. So
it's all the same. Yeah, it's all the same.
They're all working for corporations.
Exactly. Yeah. They might as well just start having bumper stickers and what's Obama sponsored by, or
exactly.
Paul Ryan sponsored by,
Yeah, because I think that they all are just corporate.
Exactly. And it's every, and they always say, like the Democrats say they're anti-lobbyist, and yet the first person Obama invites into the thing are lobbyists, and the Republicans would do the same thing. So
they all do it. It doesn't matter what name you put on it.
Exactly.
I've lost faith in all of them. So there you go. We start out really depressing, banging the whole thing. Well,
happy thoughts now. Happy thoughts.
Happy thoughts. Okay. Well, it's sunny here.
Yeah, there. It's like Silent Hill outside my house.
Oh, well, see, that could be good too.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it depends.
Yeah.
So let's start in with you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's say, okay.
Okay.
We have to. No, so what can we say about you? What labels can we put? No. Now you have...
See, gorgeous, funny, talented, single.
Oh, there we go. See?
There we go.
Now we're getting there. No, I was just going to say that, okay, now you have written a book.
Yes,
and,
I have.
This was kind of interesting. Ghost in the Coal Cellar.
Ghost in the Coal Cellar.
Sorry,
No, that's okay. You know what? That's better. Barnes & Noble's, I pretended to be a customer because I wanted to see if they had my book on the shelves. And they spent 5 minutes trying to even find it, and they couldn't find it. So finally they asked for the author name, and I pretended, that I was the customer and I knew the name. And they're like, oh, I was searching for Ghost in the Cold Shower. Oh. So you're good.
Oh. That might be a good idea, too.
There's another book idea.
There's
there's
another one. See, now we've got a whole series going on here.
Yeah.
No. Well, now this was about true cases from a lone investigator, right? True case files, that's you. And so you were a skeptic, if I understand that.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
so how skeptical were you? Like, were you totally, not believing?
I was the kind where... I love the stories like the Canterville Ghost, or when I was little, I'd go into our library and I'd get books on ghosts and Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster. And it was just something that I thought was fun, but I didn't actually think that any of it was true. And when my friends would tell me ghost stories, I would just I would try not to laugh in their face, but that usually was what ended up happening. But I would try to be nice about it and just listen and nod. But then that little rationality came over me, and I'd have to try and tell them, well, that's not possible, because, and I would just insult them completely. But I was so skeptical. I just honestly did not believe that such things could possibly exist.
Yeah. Well, and it's easy, because quite often people, when they're telling you stories, it's quite easy for them to be a little overboard, or it sounds kind of, far-fetched, because some of them sound really wild, right? Especially
exactly.
When there's blood running down my wall and all this sort of stuff.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of times, too, is, and that's what I found out when I had my first experience, is sometimes the first experience is so dramatic that you can't really find the words to explain it properly, so sometimes you kind of over exaggerate, you're not like lying, but you're using grandiose words to make it seem even bigger than it actually was, because it's just so dramatic for you. And for a lot of people, it's traumatic, where they're actually traumatized by these events and they don't know how to describe it, and so they just go off into these wild details about it. And I always found that really hard to believe until I actually experienced it myself.
Right. Well, and plus people, a lot of times when they're trying to describe, they have already come to conclusions, and so they're talking about that as in their conclusion, not so much this is what happened,
Yeah,
so
exactly, yeah.
The emotions tie that. So what made you change, or what made you open up to ghosts or paranormal?
Well, I had an experience, and this was my brother Andy and his now wife Jamie. They were big into the paranormal long before I was. And my sister-in-law had a lot of paranormal experiences. And so they became paranormal investigators, and they would travel around and do different ghost hunts and ghost tours and learn about the different areas. And I think, and this is just a theory, but I think when my brother and his wife were in Gettysburg, and my brother came home, because this was before they were married and he was still living in our family home at the time. I think he brought something with him, because, they'd get little souvenirs. Like if they went to the Battle of Gettysburg, they'd maybe take a rock from the actual battlefield or some soil, and they'd bring it home with them. And that's exactly when everything kind of started, was right when they came home from Gettysburg. So I don't know if it was an antique they brought that had an attachment that they brought into the home, or if it was something from the battlefield, like a rock or some soil that they brought home as a souvenir and a reminder of the time they spent there. But as soon as he came home, so many weird things started to happen, and I'd always pass them off as nothing, until one day my brother and my other brother John were at this fair. It's called Bastille Days, if people from the Milwaukee area in Wisconsin know about Bastille Days. It was about 30 to 45 minutes away from where we live. And one night I heard, heavy footsteps. It sounded like my brother's cowboy boots, walking through the kitchen, walking down the hallway past the stairs that led up to the loft where I stayed, and then into his room, and I heard his door close. So I went downstairs because I wanted to find out how Bastille Days was. And when I knocked on the door, it opened by itself. His lights were on, and I had turned them off myself, because my mom is a serious fanatic about saving electricity. And I mean, it could be like 0 degrees outside and our heat would be down to like 50, because she's not paying those bills. So she makes me go off and turn off all the lights that are not being used before, heading upstairs. So I'm assuming he came home. And so I went to my mom's room, because usually what my brothers like to do is make a beeline for my mom's room, wake her up out of a deep sleep if she's sleeping, just so that they could say goodnight. And my mom's like, well, who just came home? And I said, well, didn't anybody come to see you, because there's nobody in the house? And she's like, no. So I called my brother to see if he had come and run out, and they were still at the party, or at the festival, which is 45 minutes away. Now, unless they have the Stargate, they're not going to get from our house and then in 5 seconds be at a party that's 45 minutes away from our house. So then we started to panic, and we thought somebody broke into our house, because my mom heard the exact same thing I heard. She heard somebody come in, walk through the kitchen, and walk into my brother's room and shut the door. And so I grab a butcher knife, and I arm my mom with knives, and she's sitting on the couch, and I'm taking knives and I'm putting them in the door to the basement so nobody can get up in case they snuck downstairs. And then I'm trying to look as mean as a pit bull as I'm walking around the house trying to see if, looking in closets, looking under beds. And finally I got to my brother's room, and I'm looking under the bed, and I'm looking in his closet, and there's just nothing there. So I turn off his light, and as I'm walking to the door, his light turns back on. And this isn't one of those lights where, you could kind of push it down a little bit and then it pops back up. Down is like you hear a loud click and it goes all the way down and it stays down. That's off. And then all the way up, is on. And so I'm like, I didn't really think about it. And I went and I turned it off again. And as I'm walking away, it turns on again all by itself. And this time I see it turn on all the way. So then I'm starting to freak out just a little bit. And at this time, my brothers had rushed home because I had hung up the phone with them saying somebody broke into our house. They searched the entire perimeter, and it had just rained, so there's splotches of mud everywhere. And so they could see their own footprints. And there's no other footprints there. Nobody had jimmied any locks. All the locks had been just perfectly in place as I left them. The windows had been untouched. There was absolutely no way anybody could have got into our house. And I mean, they did a search from top to bottom, outside, inside. There's just absolutely no way. And then after that, things just started to happen on a regular basis. So that was like the introduction, and then things just kind of kept going from there.
Right. So when that happened, did you think automatically paranormal, or what were you thinking initially?
Initially, I thought someone broke into my house.
Right, of course. I mean, I think that's
dang.
the obvious. I mean,
Yeah.
because when people don't think it, I think it's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Because that's, you start hearing noises or.
Oh,
lights
yeah, and I'm walking around the house like, I know you're here.
Yeah.
And I'm armed, So I'm like, oh. And but then my next thought was there's a rational explanation. Maybe the faulty switch. Maybe, the light switch went up on its own, but maybe there's something wrong with it. Or maybe there's an electrical problem. I just kind of dismissed it. But when I finally stopped, I started hearing like people calling my name, and then I'd yell downstairs to find out who it was, and nobody had said it. And sometimes I would see things that would move from one place where I left it, and then it would be in another place. And I dismissed it. I'd say, I just forgot. But then I was sitting on my bed, and I was talking to my friend because I had a remote control that didn't have, the batteries were dead, and God forbid that I should manually turn the TV channels every time I want to switch stations. And I'm not a caveman here, okay? I live in the age of technology, and I am, by gosh, going to use it. So I said, by gosh, oh my God, that sounds so. Okay, anyway.
that kind of, yeah, okay.
But yeah, okay. Gosh, gee, okay. But my closet was open because I was searching for batteries, and because I knew I had just bought some new batteries, and I couldn't find them anywhere. And so I'm sitting talking to my friend, and about 20 minutes into the conversation, a box that was sitting way, way, way in the back of the closet on top of the shelf, like pushed right against the wall. It doesn't just tip out and fall in the bottom of the closet. It shoots out of the closet. It flies 8 feet, hits my bed, which stops its momentum, and then spills over. And in that box are all the batteries that I had bought. And I tried, and I spent over an hour trying to recreate what was happening. I don't know how many times I placed it in there. I placed it precariously so that it would intentionally tip. I mean, everything that I tried, the most I could get it to do was just fall straight down inside the closet. I could never get it to actually shoot out of the closet and then land 8 feet later. So that's when I started to think that something really odd was going on. And I still wasn't ready to make the paranormal leap until after my father passed away. And he had been suffering with cancer for over 15 years. And he finally, he passed away. And a month later, my mom and I, we weren't even thinking of any of those occurrences anymore because my grandma had just died before him a few months. And then he passed away a few months later. So our minds were elsewhere. And as we were starting to get back to kind of a sense of normalcy, my mom had bought a new landline machine that had one of those digital voicemails instead of the ones where you put the little tiny tape inside. And we were all excited because we felt like, we were the first people on the block to not be analog. We were so cool. And we finally got this voice message, and we were so excited. We saw the blinking, and we're like partying like we just won the lottery because we were so happy. And it did little things.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I know. And when I pressed play, it was all white noise. And then a few minutes into the white noise, we hear a voice. And my mom's jaw dropped and my jaw dropped. So we call my brother, who works in the city. He was a police officer at the time in the city where we lived, and we asked him to come home on lunch. We played it for him without telling him what we heard, and his jaw dropped. So then we call my other brother. My other brother comes running home, and we play it without telling him, and his jaw dropped. We're all sitting there like agape. And finally someone speaks up and says, "That's Dad's voice, and he's saying I love you." And then right after my dad's voice, clear as a bell, it was my dad. Right after his voice was another male voice that said something about a light, like something like, "There's the light." And then the message cut out and all paranormal activity in the house ceased. And that was the moment I finally realized that there had to be something more going on that can't be explained by natural means. Because a landline phone that's brand new, first time we've ever had digital, so there's not going to be any residual messages. And my dad never said, "I loved you" on voicemail, because he always believed you should say it in person. But there's my dad saying, "I love you," and another man saying something about a light, and then nothing happens in our house ever again after that moment. So that's when I started to kind of think things differently, and I actually became a paranormal investigator.
That's quite the jump, hey?
Yeah. Well, when something slaps you upside the head, I mean, you're not going to wait for it to beat you down before you finally listen. I mean, one slap upside the head was enough to kind of wake me up.
Right. Well, I mean, that's pretty big, too. It's
Yeah.
not just like something falling off your mantle.
Well, exactly, yeah.
It's a little bit more. And so so previously, now, how did you feel about that? As in, like, so you didn't really have any sort of paranormal, then that happened, and it changed you, and you said that ceased. After that, that was it. So you had
That
no
was
more.
it for there. Yeah, no more experiences at that house. It was my theory, and again, this is just a theory. I don't know for sure, but I think whatever spirit found its way into our home, whether my brother bought it from Gettysburg, or sometimes, a lot of times spirits are there's a theory that a lot of these spirits are like us. They're human spirits. They're intelligent spirits. And we travel all around. There's nothing to say that a spirit is attached to a place where they can't travel. And either it was brought by my brother or it traveled and then found our home and realized that my dad wasn't long for the world, because he died very shortly after this started to happen. And maybe he just wanted to wait until my dad passed, because maybe he thought, well, her dad will know how to pass over because I can't. Or maybe he thought, well, I'm ready to pass over now and I can go with her dad and help him along the way and help him with the transition. I don't know which it was. I don't even know if that really is what happened, but it just seems odd that at that moment there are two voices, my dad's and an unknown male voice, and then everything just stops, as if nothing had ever happened in the house before.
Right, and there's probably some connection. It's just really hard to really know what.
Well, exactly, and that's what the paranormal is. I mean, if the paranormal wasn't paranormal, it would be a science, and a lot of us would be millionaires because we'd have it explained, and we'd have the proof of what it is, and we wouldn't need to be researching like this like we do. But the paranormal's paranormal, and right now we can't say anything 100% definitively.
Yeah, I think that's it. So did you have, without being too strict, but did you have any religious views beforehand? And did it change afterwards? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, did it does it make a difference, or because I've been through the gamut here, because I've seen and talked to people that are very religious, and to people that exactly have Satanists and non-religious and atheists. And so when I'm talking with everybody, it seems like there's quite an opposing view. Yeah. And in fact, one was a little bit. It can be a little offensive almost sometimes, because I know when I was talking to Tony Vespa, I believe his name was, he's the one that runs the Warrens paranormal group. He was like, well, if you're not Christian or religious, we won't even let you be an investigator. Yeah. You can't be if you don't believe in God. And I thought, well, just 20 years ago, most religious, like Christian and Catholic religions would not even, they thought you were part of the devil if you were looking for ghosts, And
there's still some religions that are like that. When I was researching the paranormal, I've been researching for a second book, and I also researched for this book. I did reach out to a lot of clergy, and I talked to a rabbi, and I talked to a couple priests, actually, because I am Catholic.
Right.
And I reached out to Baptist ministers, and at least the ones that I spoke to were just like, they were like ready to hold a crucifix up to me and damn me back to hell. I mean, they were not very nice about my question. And my question was simple, like, well, what are your theories on the paranormal? I wasn't asking like, you must believe in ghosts because ghosts exist. I just wanted to know their views, and if they don't believe in it or if they think it's all evil, why? I mean, that's all I wanted to know. But they told me that I need to repent, and I'm sitting here like, I'm a Catholic. I go to church every Sunday. I sing at church. I'm a cantor, I'm like, geez, I say my rosary every night, and I pray the divine mercy. I mean, how much more repenting can I do?
More. Well, and that's kind of the confusing thing on that too, because when I hear that and when I get challenged on that sort of thing, I'm thinking, well, then I'm really confused about that. I'd rather just be transparent. Like, okay, so if you believe in you practice a religion and you don't believe in ghosts, that's fine.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I wanted to know. I didn't want them to tell me what I wanted to hear. What I really wanted to hear was, well, if you don't believe in spirits, well, what do you think of the paranormal, of what's happening nowadays with ghost hunters on television and people coming forward saying that they've had these experiences? What do you think these experiences are? Do you think they're psychological? Do you think they're demonic? I just wanted to honestly know, but they literally would not touch it with a 10-foot pole.
What do you think that was more political, as in, maybe the voice of the church has to stay under one common, if and
it could be, like I said, there's some people in various different, and people always ask me, do I like or do I dislike what the shows on TV do to the paranormal community? And one thing that I do really like about these television shows, like Ghost Adventures, oh God, I never thought I'd say that, and Ghost Hunters. The one thing I joke about Zach Bagans so much, and I get ragged on so hard for doing it, but he makes it so easy. But
listen, I'll tell you, they will not. I've had everybody on my show, from Haunting to Australia to Dead Files and they are the one show that will not. Because I rag on them too. And not so much, and I don't really, personally, I don't think they're any better or worse than any of the others. I just, it's just, with that, it's just a little bit too much about the hair and the clothes.
That's what I was going to say. It's the hair, it's the muscle shirts, it's,
it's just a little bit too much fashion.
It's the demonic possessions every single episode.
Yeah, it's just, and the thing is, it's just more obvious to me, and I guess in the big part of that is it is entertainment. Exactly.
And, more power to him. But I make fun of him a lot, and I don't feel bad about it. But
no, it brings more attention to the show.
Exactly, and you know what? He loves it because, like you said, it brings more attention to the show. It's more publicity for him anyway. So, but the one thing I do like about those shows is that there were people who were so scared of the stigma of having paranormal activity that they wouldn't come forward. They would just suffer in silence, or they would try to move and get away from it. They didn't want to seek help because, especially in certain religious communities, they'd be shunned. Right. And they didn't think that there was help out there for them, so they would just suffer in silence. But shows like this have given them an outlet where they can go for very private and confidential help, where they don't have to, but a lot of it still is, in some communities, a religious stigma. And so they are afraid to come forward because of religious reasons.
Well, I think that's going to take a long time to
grow. Yeah.
I mean, because no matter what, because even look at, in the U.S., there's still a huge problem. I don't know if that's the right word, but there's still a huge part of people in a core strong religion that don't want change, and they don't. That. I mean, and I'm not even putting it down, but I'm just saying that what it is they're not really open to much movement, much change. They want things to stay a certain way. And if anything, in a way, I kind of respect that in a way. I don't agree with it, but I certainly respect it because a lot of the mainstream church is kind of in common has changed, because now you can be a ghost hunter in some, and you can, God, and I look at marriage, and I look at some of the things like God, I remember being young, a long time ago, but in the 60s, where my older sister At 16 she was. And must have been early 70s, and she got pregnant.
Yeah.
And, of course, she wasn't married, and she was in school. But they sent her away.
Yeah.
And you know how bad that was, you see, back then. I mean, to have a child out of wedlock.
Yeah, yeah.
And how it was so not the right thing. And now it's commonplace.
Yeah.
And I'm not even putting it down. I'm not making an opinion one way or the other. I'm just saying.
Oh, sure. It's how things change, yeah.
And just how it's changed, like, just in 20 years. And now people, you can have 5 baby daddies.
Yeah, yeah. See, what I think about religion is, and this is just for me, this is only an opinion, but for me, religion is supposed to be there. I don't think that they should change their morals based on convenience. Yeah. I think, if they have a certain moral, and that's, because God isn't supposed to be convenient. There's supposed to be sacrifices made for God. But, and if that's not right for you, I'm not saying that's bad. If you want to be atheist, you're atheist. But, if being a Catholic isn't right because, they have this thing where you're not supposed to have premarital sex and you're supposed to not have abortions. And if that's not right for you, then, there are other options to look into, but don't try to make the church change for you because there are other Christian religions that are more accepting of certain things. And so I kind of respect some people when they stick to their, whether or not you agree with them, exactly. Whether or not you agree, yeah, but the fact that they don't change to be convenient for people because they believe that you're supposed to change for God. But that being said, I actually found the Catholics were the most open to me when I was doing my research. In fact, I talked to a lot of priests who had paranormal experiences. And we're not just talking about demonic experiences where they're doing exorcisms or, house cleansings of potentially infected homes. But we're talking about a priest who actually had an experience where he went to a home and he was doing what he calls the blessing of the home, trying to release a spirit that was potentially in the house bothering people. And when he invoked the name of Jesus, he actually heard something phantom saying, "Amen, amen." And then it was like everything just kind of lifted out of the room, and then all of the paranormal activity in that home stopped from that point on. And he said, well, he always assumed that ghostly activity was always demonic. And why would a demon actually say amen, amen, which is amen is basically I believe in what you're saying. I believe in the word of God. I believe in Christ. I accept it. And he's like, well, why? So now he has a theory that in Catholicism, we believe in a place called purgatory. And that's a place where you die in God's grace, you can go to heaven, but you want to cleanse your soul of venial sins to make yourself pure. Well, we know heaven is above us. We know hell is below us. Where is purgatory? Could a lot of the spirits that are here stuck in this realm be souls that are still in purgatory trying to find a way to cleanse themselves of venial sins? And that's one of his theories, is that some of the intelligent hauntings that we have are possibly souls in purgatory. And again, it's a theory. It's not something that he's able to prove. It's not something that, I'm able to prove, but it's something that was worth looking into as one of the many theories of why ghosts are here.
Yeah. There's just so many ways to go, but
yeah.
I mean, that's great. It's just being open with it. That's
yeah,
all.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just strange. So how did it work? Like, so before this happened and you had your siblings there out ghost hunting.
Yeah.
And so you were sort of not really
interested.
How did that work for you guys? Like, how was the relationship? Did you kind of roll your eyes, or were you
just kind of rolled my eyes a lot, or just listened to their stories and nodded without saying much?
But you just kind of thought, well, yeah, whatever.
Just kind of thought like, oh, sure. Well, my grandma even had a paranormal experience, or what she thinks is a paranormal experience. And to this, up to her passing, she firmly believes that she saw a ghost. And I would just listen to because my grandma loved to tell the story over and over. And I would just sit there and nod and smile and just not say anything. But, and I had all these theories in my head, because she saw a woman in a white gown, very pale, floating over the reeds. She could see the tips of her toes just brushing along the reeds as she's gliding by. And I'm thinking, it's probably just some nutbag that's running out there in her nightie, just, and just jumping and leaping and running and, maybe having some kind of a mental breakdown. And my grandma's just seeing a little piece of it. And, so I had those thoughts in my head. But now I kind of think, well, what if my grandma did see something, and all this time I was just dismissing her because I didn't want to believe it because I couldn't bring myself to believe it. And all these stories of my friends that I just dismissed as crazy, well, maybe they're not so crazy after all.
Yeah. Or maybe you are crazy now.
Yeah.
And joining them. You're all
I've had a
crazy.
lot of people tell me I'm crazy and worse, so who knows? Maybe they're all right.
So there you go. You might.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay.
It is, yeah. I'm happy, so that's what it counts.
That's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
And now, so you went into now research. So you've taken this from having from a skeptical point of view to having some things happen.
Yeah.
To writing a book.
Yes.
And
Well, actually, I mean, it wasn't just having things happen and then writing a book. I've actually been doing this for over a decade now, researching the paranormal. And I just took some of my favorite cases from over a decade to write the book about. But I've actually been doing lots of paranormal investigations across the country for 10 years. Well, actually, yeah, going on from 10 years to 15 years. Yeah, going on to 11 years. I got to learn how to count again. I got to go back to kindergarten. It's almost going to be 11 years next year. So I've been doing this for quite a long time. And a lot of the stories that you're going to see in Ghost in the Coal Cellar are combinations of some of my most favorite cases, like Mackinac Island and Mission Point Resort. And then there's one in Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin, called the First Ward Schoolhouse. There's a private investigation of a family that had a spiritual problem. And, so these are all things that are some of my favorite cases that I wanted to share. And I wanted to share it in kind of a different way for people so that they could enjoy it and feel like they're paranormal investigators with me on a case.
Oh. So now, where do you investigate? Like, are you just doing local kind of like people, like residential, or are you doing more kind of old haunted commercial places?
I do a combination of both. I do a lot of the private investigations. It's not just local. I tend to kind of travel around, like where I live. I go to Wisconsin, Minnesota. I travel around the states that border my area. But if somebody called me from like South Dakota and they wanted, because I've been in it for 10 years and they're a relatively new group and they wanted me to come in and kind of show them what I do, I'll travel out there and I'll help them out with an investigation as well. I also do like the commercial places, like the First Ward Schoolhouse and Mission Point Resort and the theater there are all commercial places. They're one's a schoolhouse that's also like kind of like a historical thing now where people could come in and see the history of the area. And the theater is where on Mackinac Island is, I don't know if you know Somewhere in Time. It's like an 80s movie with Christopher Reeves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he filmed there. So, I mean, this is like a very public thing where people still come and look at the history there. And there's a lot of things that happen there as well that I've done investigations for. So I kind of I try to get wherever I can possibly get, just so that I can use the little bits and pieces that I learned to try and further my research. I don't want to limit myself to just doing this or to just be one of those who, goes to commercial places or famous places and ignores the people that are, needing help with paranormal issues in their private homes. I want to make sure I'm involved in everything because that's how I learn more about the paranormal and I further the research one step each time I go to somewhere different.
Yeah. Well, that must have been a real haunted place because that was a terrible movie.
I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was sweet.
Oh.
I thought it was a very sweet movie.
Yeah.
Aw. And in the end, he dies. Oh, I should have said spoiler. Sorry.
Well, I don't think it's a spoiler. It's like
Yeah, I
30
suppose.
years ago or so. That's a little
Yeah.
long now. A little long now.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference between one or the other, or it just doesn't matter? You're just trying to help people and...
Well, I really like going to the private investigations because I like to help people. I mean, when people want to, and they're helping me as much as I'm helping them because I would have nothing to research if they wouldn't come forward and ask for my help. So that's why a lot of us paranormal investigators do this for free because we're getting something out of it as much as they are. We're trying to find them answers. And in the meantime, we're using them to research the paranormal. But I love to go into these places where people have the same kind of experience that I had when I first got kind of like baptized by fire. And I want to try and calm their fears. I want to try and everything that I didn't have at that time, I want to try to be for them. And so I do like to do private investigations, but sometimes like investigations of big places like the theater, it is so fun because that theater, and I detail it in my book. There is a ghost named Harvey and a little ghost named Lucy. And even though I've been back a couple times since writing my book, and I just have the most fun interactions with them. So, like I had a rubber ducky story, and I mean, it's fun. I mean, these are fun interactions. And so I do like to do things like that, but I also love the private investigations just because I'm helping people where I was when I first had my experience. And now I could be there for them when I didn't have anybody because I didn't know that paranormal investigative groups actually existed at that time.
Yeah. Is there a place that has stuck out for you as being the most, I don't want to say the most haunted, but it just stuck out. It stays with you.
I think one of the places that stays with me is actually in the book, and it's the First Ward Schoolhouse. That's actually where the title of the book, The Ghost in the Coal Cellar, came from. It was actually from the coal cellar in the First Ward Schoolhouse where a lot of the paranormal activity happened, and a lot of it was not necessarily pretty. We're not talking about Casper the Friendly Ghost at that place, and it was not exactly. It was for me as an investigator, it was fantastic. But there were some people that were there. It was a fundraiser for the schoolhouse, and they had an investigation going on. They were showing people what it's like to do investigations and what it's like to live at a haunted place. And there were two people there, a big burly man and his wife, that were absolutely traumatized by what happened in that coal cellar. And, for me, it was like awesome. For them, it was like, I am getting the heck out of here. I want nothing to do with this place. This place is bad. And they literally, I mean, they never came back either. They didn't come back for the next day of investigations even. But yeah, that place really stuck out. That's where I saw a full body apparition. That's where I was choked. It's where, I had scratches and other people had scratches. And so it was a very interesting, active place.
Wow. Sounds like a party.
It was. It was really interesting, especially when you're getting choked as you're sitting there and you're trying not to freak out everybody else who aren't paranormal investigators. They're just there out of curiosity, and you don't want to like traumatize them. And you're sitting there like choking and not breathing, and you're like,
oh my God, this lady's a nut.
Exactly. And I'm sitting there, I'm trying to just look all composed, but I'm getting more and more pale as I'm sitting there. People are asking if I'm okay, and I can't even say yes or no because I can't breathe. And yeah, so that was an interesting place.
So is there any place that you want to go that you haven't been to yet? Or is there like a desire to go someplace you've heard about?
I mean, I still really, really want to go, and I know it's up for sale right now, but, I would like to go to the, oh my God, I'm having a total brain fart. Lizzie Borden's house. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, where's that? The brain fart castle.
Oh my God, it's this winter, I'm telling you. But no, I'd like to go to the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast. I know it's up for sale, so I have to look in to see if it's even active right now, because they're, if anybody wants to go in on it with me, it's like $600,000, and I've got like about $300 I could put towards it if anyone else wants to help me buy it.
Yeah, but, there you go. Just put it on your charge card.
Just put it, exactly. But I would really love to go there. And there's a lot of, I even, oh God, here I go again with Zach Bagans, but I'd actually like to go to that house that he's supposedly doing a documentary about. That one in Indiana that's supposedly demonically possessed, or there's like demons that are in that house, and he's trying to, he's making a documentary about it. It was that one family where a lot of demonic things were happening, and the cops came and they took a picture, and there's actually some kind of an apparition in the window, and he bought it off of them because they got out of there and they didn't want nothing to do with it. They had, while he was actually investigating, somebody got possessed, and they had to have an exorcism performed right there to, kind of get it off their spirit. And I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily believe it 100%, but I'd really love to get out there and just see it for myself. But
yeah, kind of helps if you.
I've got a weird, morbid curiosity about that place. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and then you can pick up some hair techniques from
exactly. I make fun of him, but he does have good hair. He does have, I mean, it's got to cost him a pretty penny with all that hair gel. I mean, he must have to use like 3 or 4 cans an episode. So
Yeah, but he's got the money now.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And, I guess that other guy left the show too. Eh?
Yeah, Nick left the show. He's actually, I think, working on Ghost Stalkers. I think he produces that new show. And from what I hear is I don't get the channel, and I'm too cheap to actually buy the channel from my cable provider. But I hear it's really good. I mean, a lot of my friends see it, and they said it's an excellent show. So,
Yeah. I haven't seen it. I'm not in a rush. If I catch it, I will. But I sort of think they've all become, how do I say, they've got a formula to them.
Yeah.
And they all have the same formula. And I don't see much different in them, other than the characters.
I'd like to see something that's a little more unique and a little more except for I love Fact or Faked. That was a really good show. I like the way they kind of went through all of the different experiments to try and see if they could find rational explanations. I liked Ghost Hunters because they were the forefront of the paranormal industry where, that was unique back then. And then everyone kind of started to copy them. But I really liked this one show. I think it was Paranormal Paparazzi.
Oh.
I saw 2 episodes. They run it like TMZ.
Oh.
And it was kind of interesting, but I think it got canceled.
Oh.
But but they were unique. They had a new tag, so yeah, got to give them credit.
I like something that's a little different, or they have a different angle and that. But everything else, it all sort of runs into each other the same.
Exactly.
And I just don't like it when they sort of come up with their theories as if they're fact.
Yeah, yeah.
This is what it is, has to be, and this is how you do. This is how you hunt. This is how you do it.
Exactly.
And there's just no other way. Like, they become the authority on it.
Well, yeah. And see, that's why I call myself the lone investigator. It doesn't mean that I'm stupid enough to go out there and investigate by myself. I would never put myself in that kind of a position. What I mean by lone investigator is that I don't have my own paranormal group. What I do is I travel around the country and I go from group to group, not because I, want to say, hey, I just want to investigate. I also want to learn from them. I want to see what their techniques are. I want to see what their opinions are, because that helps me in my, I could test it. I could see, does this work for me? Do I still believe it after using their techniques? And it helps me grow as a paranormal investigator. Because this is paranormal, you can't say you're an expert. Because it's the paranormal. We don't have answers for the paranormal yet. We still don't know what are ghosts. We don't 100% know that for sure. Maybe all ghosts are demonic. Maybe ghosts are just some kind of like a psychic energy around us. Or maybe they're actually dead people that are, kind of like roaming around in our bathrooms and watching a shower. I don't know. So I can't say that I'm an expert at this kind of thing if I don't have those kind of answers. So I never say, this is how you do an investigation. When I have people follow me or shadow me on an investigation, I say, this is how I do it. And now, if you don't like the way I do it, or if you're curious how other people do it, ask other groups to shadow them and see what they do, and then find out what works for you. That's what is most important.
Yeah. I think it's hard to be an authority or a standard, like this is what is, because there isn't a fact.
No, there's nothing that we can, if there was something that we could pinpoint and say it's a fact, it would then be a science. It would no longer be paranormal. And that person who discovered it would be a multimillionaire. And God in heaven, I hope it's me one day, but I highly doubt it.
Well, keep on working there. It's so what do you find you use for tools, let's say, of the trade?
Tools of the trade, tricks of the trade.
Well, that too. Or what do you use yourself? Or find that you've or you kind of think, well, this is helpful?
Well, I'm still a paranormal investigator on a budget. So you're not going to find me with equipment that costs anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000. But whenever I start, especially if there are new groups that are just starting and they want to know where to go, I always say the most important things that you should have in your arsenal is your eyes, your ears, all of your wits. Don't drink before you go. Don't, do drugs before you go. You want to be completely coherent when you're there. You want to have all of your wits about you. A good recorder. You could get a really good recorder for under $50. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on a recorder to get a really good recorder. A good camera is always a plus, and a good video camera. Those are the biggest things that budding investigators, because everyone wants to do the K2 meter because, the K2 meter is so popular thanks to ghost hunters. A lot of people want to do the Mel meter. A lot of people want to do all the new things that are coming out. Like I have an electroscope now, which was created by a paranormal investigator, and it works based on static electricity. But like I say, those can be very pricey, depending, like the Mel meter. I couldn't find a Mel meter under $100 when I first bought one. So they could be a little more pricey, they could be a little more expensive. And the problem is, unless you know how to do like scientific experiments, and I know people don't like the word scientific, but I mean, they're experiments. If you're actually experimenting, I mean, people didn't know that the earth was round until there were experiments that finally proved it.
Oh, wait, the world's round?
Yeah, hey, it's not flat. But there are people that would look at the round earthers and think that they were nuts until it was finally proven. But unless you actually know how to do these kind of experiments where you're like, let's say you have a green light that lights up for yes, and you have a red light that lights up for no. And if you're getting the green light for all the yes questions and you ask no questions and you're getting the red light, well, then you switch and you say, well, now the green light is no. And then you ask, you do these kind of different experiments. But if you don't know how to do them properly and you're spending so much time like, okay, light up if the answer is this. Light up and you're not looking around you and you're not listening around you and you're not you're just focusing on that light, you are missing so much. So I always say when you're first into investigating, heighten your senses. Get your senses so that you know that if you see something out of the corner of your eye, you look. You don't just pay attention to the light. You actually turn your head and you look. So get your sight going, get your hearing going, get your sense of smell going. Because oh my gosh, I've smelled so many nasty things. Most of it Taco Bell.
Yeah, I was
but
depends who you're with, right?
Yeah, sometimes there have been odd. Like in one of the investigations I actually did for Ghost in the Coal Cellar, one of the smells that we actually smelt was something on fire, and that particular building was on fire at one time. So I mean, you have to kind of like be able to see things and hear things and smell things before you throw in all of the what I call bells and whistles.
Yeah.
I mean, and like the K2 meter can be a great tool if you use it right, and the Mel meter can be a great tool if you use it right. But they're bells and whistles. Those are things that you can come after you're used to using your own senses.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite thing. I mean, I love myself. I think I'm awesome. And so, of course, I am my very first and most favorite piece of equipment on an investigation. So,
well, yeah, and your own mind.
In my own mind, I'm awesome.
Yeah, well, and your own mind and senses are just as good as an electronic item that reacts.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? I mean, we don't know any for sure why it reacts anyway.
Exactly, and like I said, when I use it, what I'll do is I'll take a light. One color is going to mean yes, one color is going to mean no. And I'll ask a bunch of yes questions that I know are yes, like, am I a girl? Are we inside? Like, are we in the house or are we in a building? And obviously the answer should be yes if I'm indoors. And are you here? Like, obviously, are you here? If you're there, you're going to say yes. Well, then what I will take, and then I'll do no questions. I don't want to see that yes box lighting up. I want to see the no box lighting up. Then after I'm done with, and I get the results I want, I'll switch it. I'll take one light and I'll say, okay, this light is now no. So if the answer is no, I want you to light this up, and I'll ask the same type of questions. Well, if there's lighting up randomly and they just answered no, but now they're answering yes, well, then I could kind of toss those out. So, I mean, I do use them, but I don't make them my all investigation.
Yeah, it's not the total.
Yeah.
And you don't want me being the ghost, because I'd be screwing you up. No matter what you're saying, I'm changing back and forth.
Exactly.
Are you a girl? No. Are you here? No. Yeah, and then I'll say yes. That's what I would do. I really would.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, that would be fun. I'd be having a great time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Make it entertaining,
May as well.
Make any waste. Wow. So
it's better than being pantsed. I mean, yeah. I've known investigators that have been pantsed. So
yeah. Well, I want them to keep coming back, so I'd be doing that. But
yeah.
So where do you see now? You had the Weather Channel documentary thing, hey?
Oh God, I don't even want to talk about that. I am so mad at the Weather Channel. I could just spit, and I'm a girl, so I don't spit very often, but I could spit.
Well, throw something at them. How's that?
Yeah.
What was the deal with that? So they sort of changed the outcome or something?
Well, no, they didn't really change the outcome. And I agree with their consensus at the end. But the problem is, okay, I was approached, and I'm not blaming the Weather Channel. I shouldn't blame them. It's actually lies on the studio, Pioneer TV.
Right.
And they had approached me because I was doing research of the Paulding Lights for the book Ghost in the Coal Cellar. And I have videos of the Paulding Lights that I posted on YouTube, and they had seen it and asked, well, we're doing the show. Is there a possibility we can talk to you about your experiences, and can we use some of your video? So I actually made a very long list. I explained, I said, first off and foremost, I am a paranormal investigator. I do have a book that I would love to plug on the show, which they obviously didn't let me do. So right there, they lost my... But I said, I'm a paranormal investigator, and the Paulding Lights is very seated into the history of this location. And I don't want to participate if this is going to be one of these, well, people who believe that it's paranormal are stupid, and here's why. I didn't want to participate in something that was going to make, embarrass or humiliate the people of the area who believe in the Paulding Lights. I mean, I did not want to do that. And then secondly, I said that I took a high-powered telescope, and just like they did, I was able to see car lights. I was able to make out sedans. I can make out semi-trucks. I can make out pickup trucks. You could even make out the headlights in the pitch black darkness. I mean, there is 100% without a doubt some of the phenomena that people think are the Paulding Lights are actually car lights. But here is some of the other experiences I had. And then I explained about two balls of light, red light, one big, one small, that was not even, maybe about 50 to 100 feet away from where we were standing, broad daylight. So you could tell, like, if it were a car or if it were a bike, you'd be able to see in broad daylight 100 feet away. And there were no paths where they came from. It was all dense woods, and it just came down, glided down a really steep drop off, and then shot back into the other side of the woods. And the big one stopped for the small one, like a mama bear waiting for a baby bear. And then once the small one caught up, they took off. Then there was another case where there was a green ball of light that was standing on top of my foot. Now, if that were a car, my foot would be crushed. I would be, probably have a prosthetic leg right now. Because it was actually, you could see it on my boot. It was casting a glow on my boot and on the snow around it. It was a big, probably, I would say maybe slightly bigger than a baseball. And all of a sudden it just kind of disappeared on its own. And I explained that I did look into weather phenomenon like the corpse candle, which also was called the will-o'-the-wisp. I looked into ball lightning, but I couldn't explain it as any of those phenomena for various reasons. And I explained the reasons why. And then I also provided them with electro voice phenomenon that I had captured at the actual location. I had some EVPs that were very interesting and that kind of went around some of the legends, especially the Native American legends from the area, because I had actual chanting, which sounded like powwow chanting, like Native American vocalizations. And I shared that with them as well. So I said, I understand you want to take a scientific approach, but I would also like you, if you want to point out the cars, please at least say something like, that mystery solved, but there are other mysteries at the lights that still need to be maintained. That way you still have your credibility and you're not, just slapping the face of the people that live in that area. And they did exactly the opposite of what they promised me they would do. And in fact, I was out there for 2 hours. And for those that actually saw the episode, I was wearing next to nothing. It was 32 degrees and I was wearing a light sweater because, God forbid, I looked bad on TV. It was more important that I looked good than I actually was. I had frostbite afterwards. And so they had me out there for 2 hours explaining the paranormal angle, explaining the ball lightning and the two lights that came and the light on my foot and, how I thought maybe it's the will-o'-the-wisp, but it wasn't, and all the EVPs and all this other things. And I think I threw the name of my book in there 10 times. And all I got was 5 seconds where they called me the most devoted follower or the most dedicated follower. I'm not a follower. I was just there to research the lights. Okay. I'm not somebody in a black cloak holding a candle going, oh, I'm actually hello, paranormal research is a legitimate field of research already. Come on already. But, so I was there to research it. I wasn't there to worship it. Oh. And, they're like, I'm the most dedicated follower. And And then they say that I'm a local investigator and an author, and they couldn't even mention my stupid book. Well, not stupid. It's a great book, guys. It's a great book, guys.
Other book.
Yeah, that was my other book. This book is good. No, but they couldn't even mention the name of the book, and then they did the exact thing that I didn't want to participate, where they said 100% and the mystery is solved. The Paulding lights are nothing but car lights, and that is not true. Yes, there are car lights, but there are other lights there that we have not yet been able. I can't say they're paranormal, but I can't say they're not. I mean, we have to do more study of the Paulding lights, and for them to dismiss the two red lights in broad daylight 100 feet away and the green light that was sitting on my foot and dismiss that as a car is actually, it's just dismissive. It was, and so then I called and I voiced my dislike about it to Pioneer TV, and they just basically brushed me off and said that they didn't feel that I was misled, and I just have to basically deal with it. So I said, you know what? I'll deal with it. I'm going to go on TV and on the radio, and I'm going to tell everybody about that, how that's crap.
Well,
and so here I am, guys. It's crap.
Yeah, well, it's coming back to that where, the different networks or channels that are one thing are kind of jumping on whatever's popular. So
exactly,
you're the Weather Channel. Let's sell paranormal.
And like I said, I completely understand about that. Like, first off, they could have just said this mystery is solved, but some say there are other mysteries that still need to be, blah blah blah, and that would have been fine. Or just say, well, thank you for your time, but I understand your feelings, but we're trying to go in a different way, and then I didn't have to participate. Because I told them that, well, I'll participate as long as X, Y, and Z, and they assured me that X, Y, and Z would be met, and then they didn't. So it was kind of like they backdoored me a little bit. So I wouldn't have participated, and I would have been fine with it. If that's what they want to do, I'm fine with that. But then don't let me don't say that you're going to be, reasonable and at least say, it's not mystery solved, it's just this mystery solved. And then just say, hey, the whole thing is solved. Stupid people that live there. So yeah. I was a little bit miffed about that because I was clear and I have the emails. Oh, and I proved it. Okay, but I'm okay.
Put your gun down. It's okay.
I'm calm down. I'm not angry anymore. Nah.
No, put your gun down. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
No, I don't hold a grudge. No.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, but that's okay too. I mean, that stuff sort of happens. And
yeah, and like I said, I poke fun of it lightheartedly. Like, I'm not actually as mad as I say I am. But like I said, it would have been one thing if they either said mystery solved, or if they just said, well, this is where we're going with it, so you might not want to participate, and not wasted, I had to travel out there. I got myself a hotel room for 2 days. I was out there for 2 hours, freezing my butt off because I wanted to look good and not dress warm. And then I just feel like my time was wasted. So I think that's the only thing that kind of aggravates me about that.
Yeah. But did you have good hair?
I had great hair.
Well,
oh my God. I had fantastic hair. And my makeup was spectacular. And, my outfit was spot on. So.
See? That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Good Zach hair. You see? And that's
no. My hair was so far better than Zach's. Oh, he would have been jealous. Oh.
Well, there you go. See? Just jump past the travel network, too, and get right on to something else. Exactly. A&E, right by, you take over for that, June, Mama June.
Oh, God, no.
No, but you can take over her time slot, right?
I could take over her time slot, yeah, put something a little bit better on there.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much.
Maybe bring the Learning Channel back to the Learning Channel and put something.
I mean, doesn't that say it all? I mean, they call themselves the Learning Channel, and it has that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just like MTV's the music television, and look, Teen Mom.
They haven't played a video in years.
I know.
It's like, none of these. They're all just. There's so many channels with so many hours to fill. They're just putting everything on they can.
I think I'm going to pull an Oprah, and I'm just going to create my own station.
Well, they're just there you go. But no, that's a lot of money. That is.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. So if anybody wants to make a donation, my address is
call in now. Yeah, that's it. Wow, wouldn't that be nice if it was that easy? Well, get on her network. So. you say that you like to practice new techniques and all that.
Yeah.
What is it? What is that that's different about that you do?
Like I just like to take things that are like fresh out there that people kind of poo-poo, and say, oh, geez, it's another one of those, gadgets that don't work. And I'm going to be like, well, how do you know they don't work if you don't try to use them? And I'll take them in the field and I'll give them a fair shot. I'll test them in various different ways. I'll have different ways to use them. Like I'll use them the way they say it's supposed to be used. And then I'll just use them my way because I really don't care what people say and I don't live by the rules. So I make my own rules. I live my own life. So, so I test these things out that other people maybe aren't so willing to test out, or that people will test out being all excited. Because, you have some of those groups that are excited that everything is haunted before they even get there so they think that every reaction you get from everything is paranormal.
Yeah.
And so I test it where I'll do it the way they want to do it. I'll do it my way. I'll just I just give it a fair shake. I'm not immediately going to say it works, but I'm not going to poop on it and say it doesn't work. And I say poop a lot, don't I? But I'm not going to poop on it and say that it doesn't work. I'm going to give it a fair shake. And so I will go and I'll take some new, even apps on the cell phones, like, on the new Android phones, they have new apps.
Yeah.
I do test them out. Some of the people that say that they're trying to come up with different, like, they have it's similar to like the ghost box where you can actually have them pick words out and then they're supposed to speak them. I'll test it. I mean, I don't put a lot of validity in it, but I'm not going to just throw it out. I'll test it. I'm willing to, do whatever I can to see, does this work? Does this not work? And then give my opinion on it and move on to the next thing.
What do you think of the ghost box?
I have a hard time with it. And I have so many friends that love the ghost box, but to tell you the honest truth, I've used it a couple times where it's just so obvious that in some situations, because whenever you get any moment of clarity, the radio's going to automatically stop. And, like, let's say you ask for a name and it stops and it sounds like it's saying Dan. Maybe it's not really Dan. Maybe it's the first word that belonged to something else. You're just having a moment of clarity. How can you trust something that is meant to scan until it finds a clear station and then stop? And even if you have it rigged so that it continuously scans and doesn't stop, it's still going to come through on a moment of clarity. So I don't know. I've been testing it. I've been using it. I've had some where I've actually heard cuss words that shouldn't be on the radio because of FCC regulations.
Like poop?
Like poop or
yeah.
or like I'll just do with the giggle the F word, like I'm so like innocent and I never say that word ever.
Wow,
really? I never drop the F bomb ever. But I'll hear like swear words that shouldn't be on the FCC, but then I have to ask myself, am I hearing it? Or is it just like some kind of like a moment of clarity coming in and it's so quick, but it just sounds like that? So I'm still testing it, but I don't really use it in my normal investigations unless I'm there for several days and I have a chance to use all sorts of different techniques that I can experiment with. Like on a private investigation, I generally don't use them.
Okay. And do you guys ever use mediums or any sort of psychic or a person that's connected in any way?
Me personally, no. I mean, I have friends that are psychic mediums and I know groups that do use psychic mediums or that they're psychic mediums that have started groups. It's just that I personally don't like go and seek them out and say, hey, can you come on my investigation? Because I'd like to pick your brain. I have nothing against them, because like I said, I have friends that are, it just never really comes up. I just never really like hook up with a group that has psychic mediums and, run with it. I won't use a Ouija board. That's one thing, a Ouija board, and I have a friend that's going to absolutely slam me when she hears me say that because she's a big advocate for the Ouija board, but I just don't use them. That's just not my personal preference.
You don't use it because you don't believe it, or?
I don't like to mess with it. I don't. A lot of people say, well, if you know what you're doing, well, how many people really do truly know what they're doing? You're opening, because with the Ouija board, the main purpose of the Ouija board was to open a door to the spirit realm. Like I could be in my house. My house right now is not haunted, knock on wood. So I'd be opening a spirit world and inviting spirits who otherwise aren't here to join me and then use me, my physical body as a conduit to make the planchette move. Well, first off, I don't really feel comfortable inviting spirits to actually physically use me to make, the planchette move. And I also don't want to be inviting spirits haphazardly because I do believe in demons. This is my personal belief. I believe demons exist. And I believe that they do look for invitations. And if you're actually asking a spirit that may not otherwise be there to join you, well, a demon might take that as an invitation and just come on in and wreak havoc in your life. And it's just something that I don't want to take the risk for. A lot of people do it. A lot of people never had experiences, never had problems with it. It's just not something I want to risk.
Well, it was a game originally.
Yeah, it was a game. But, so is Russian roulette. I mean, that's a game too. I don't want to play it, but it's a game.
Oh, come on. Have a little fun.
Yeah. But yeah, it's, it's just a personal preference. I don't really know what I'm doing with the Ouija board. And so I would just be inviting all sorts of trouble. That's my personal belief. I know a lot of people who use the Ouija board that never have any issues in their entire life. But to me, the Ouija board is like spiritual Russian roulette, and I just don't want to take the risk that I'm going to have the loaded chamber. And it's just not something that I want to bring home to my family. I don't want to bring it home to my friends. It's just, so I don't deal with it. But with psychic mediums, I've actually worked with Scotty Rourke, at the First Word Schoolhouse. He was there, and actually, he's such a great guy. He's so funny. He's so, so, I mean, if they're there, I'll work with them, but I don't actually actively go out and seek groups to say, hey, do you have an investigator that's psychic because I want them? If they don't have a psychic investigator on the group, I'm still going to work with them. I don't actively say I want one with me. If one's there, they can come along. Like, hey, Scotty, you want to come on investigation? Yeah, how much are you going to pay me to let you? But I don't actively seek them out and say, well, I want a group that has one. If you don't have one, I'll work with you. If you have one, I'll work with you. If you have a Ouija board, I won't work with you. That's just me. That's my personal, like I said, don't hold that, if that's not your thing, and if you love the Ouija board, and, go for it. But the Ouija board's just not my thing.
Yeah, well, that's what we do. We figure out what we like and what we don't.
Exactly.
Like.
I mean, there's so many people that hate the K2 meter, but I've used the K2 meter, and I feel that I've been successful in some of my experiments with it. So, I'm willing to take it with me on an investigation. So just like somebody would poop on the, God, I say that a lot. But pass off on the K2, I pass off on the Ouija board. So that's just me.
Yeah, well, if it doesn't work for you or if it interferes with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So what are your influences? That's a corny question.
I don't do any drugs, so.
There's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
is there any influences in the business or any place that, even outside of the paranormal business, so to speak, is there anything that you really, that influences, that gets you going?
I don't know how to answer that.
Well, I mean, like what kind of shows do you watch, or books do you read, or things like that? Like
I watch a lot of cartoons, SpongeBob SquarePants, and I'm serious. I watch a lot of SpongeBob Adventure Time on the Cartoon Network. I love The Blacklist on NBC. One of my favorite shows is Supernatural. I mean, I absolutely, and it has nothing to do with the paranormal field. I really find that Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki are hot. So it's worth watching just for that.
Yeah.
But I love Supernatural. I love The Blacklist. I mean, I used to love Monk, the obsessive-compulsive detective.
Yeah.
And, those are the kind of, I mean, I just like those. Those are my downtime. Those are my time to relax. But when it comes to actually, I love to be creative. That's why I love writing so much. And that's why I love paranormal investigation, because there's a lot of creativity in investigations. I love to paint, and I love to share my experiences. I love to sit there and talk to people and listen to their experiences and share my experiences and see if we can meet together and find out if something could answer a question about something that we don't yet have an answer to. That's what I think what drives me the most is I want to be the one to try and help further the industry and further the research and try to help find answers.
Now, where do you see yourself going now? What's next?
I'm going to Arizona and getting in some warm weather. I'm so cold. I'm tired of snow. I'm tired of fog. I'm tired of cold. No, one thing I'd really, and this is going to sound so goofy, but one thing I really do want to do is I want to write a paranormal investigative book for children. And it's not to indoctrinate children to become like ghost hunters or, I'm not trying to do that. It's just for children who've had paranormal experiences, because children are very susceptible to experiences because they don't have that taboo wall that's built up that says rationalize things away. They just accept things for what they are. And some of them have experiences. And hopefully one day they're going to be the future paranormal investigators that take over my job when, I'm retired and living in Boca. Actually Hawaii. When I'm retired and living in Hawaii, I want someone to become an investigator and continue to try and find answers and take the paranormal and maybe one day move it towards a science. And so I'd like to write a book that explains to them that they're not alone, that they don't have to be afraid. And, just kind of show them what, like if their parents are investigators, or like I have nieces and nephews and they know I investigate and they probably wonder what that means. And one day when they're a little older, they can read this book that kind of teaches them what I do, and that if you've had experiences, it's okay because it happens, that other people have experienced it too.
Okay.
And I want to write another book like Ghost in the Coal Cellar because I had so much fun telling people about my stories, about some of the best places. And I have so many new stories that I'd like to share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So tell people how they can get a hold of you and where they can find your book.
Well, I am on Facebook, of course. Everybody's on Facebook. Again, back to the spying on people. My Facebook page is facebook.com/Paranormal Ronin. That's all one word, and Ronin is Ronin. It's very Japanese. I'm very big into Japanese. So Paranormal Ronin. You can also find me at paranormalronin.blogspot.com. And on the paranormalronin.blogspot.com, you have the link to my Facebook page, my Twitter page. I have a YouTube channel with webisodes about paranormal investigations. And in fact, I'm making an episode right now about an actual investigation that I did. It's one of the first investigation episodes. So you can catch me there. Again, Paranormal Ronin, RONIN.blogspot.com. You can find my book, Ghost in the Coal Cellar, on Amazon.com, at BarnesandNoble.com, BN.com, Barnes & Noble. Everyone thinks I'm saying BM. So I always want to preface it, BarnesandNoble.com, which is BN.com. You could go to Llewellyn.com, which is my publisher, or go to your local bookstore, and if they don't have it on the shelves, ask them to order it. That would be fantastic, but just get out there and buy it, because the sales of my book is going to determine whether or not I can bring you some more awesome stories.
Well, there you have it.
There you have it.
That kind of says it all, doesn't it?
It makes a great Christmas gift, people.
There you go. Order now. You're running out of time.
Exactly. If you don't know what to get the paranormal lover on your list, Ghost in the Coal Cellar is perfect.
That's it.
There you go.
And some new Zach hair gel.
Exactly.
No, that's terrible. Oh, I get emails for this. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I will too. I mean, there's inevitably going to be the one person on Twitter that goes, "You're so mean to Zach."
Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah, he's a ghost hunter. Oh, I get those all the time.
Yeah.
It's
all in good fun, people. Lighten up.
You know what? A really good thing I found is actually, have you seen? Oh God, now I can't remember. It's like
brain fart.
Yeah, no, that's no, Ghostlands, and it's on YouTube, and there's a website. It's out of England. And it's a really kind of new way of investigating. Not really. Well, kind of what they do is it's totally they've separated. They have people that go and set up the cameras and do that stuff, but that's not the investigator. So
okay.
They just put people into it that have no idea. It's sort of weird. It's just it's done really well. It's worth a watch.
Now, are you saying ghost lands or ghost lambs, like LAMBS? I'm just trying to clarify that, because I thought you said lambs,
Ghost
like the
land, LANDS, and I know Dr. Karen O'Keefe is behind it.
Okay. I couldn't understand. At first I thought you said land, but then I thought you said lamb. Like,
yeah, it's the same.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and you could find Dr. Karen O'Keefe is the creator of it. And they've got just a really unique way of doing what they're doing. Like, if you watch it, you'll know what I mean.
Oh, okay.
I was actually quite intrigued. It was kind of a neat little thing. They have like 2 episodes done so far. And so,
now, do they actually use lambs in the episode?
Yeah, that's it. And they don't tell the lambs what's going on.
Well, I never knew if, like, maybe they just throw people in there and then give them, like, a lamb as a parting gift, or...
That's it. That's it. Well,
I was doing that for a second because I've always wanted a lamb.
Well, get on it, I was going to say, yeah, definitely it's worth a watch.
Okay.
I see a lot of things, and it was different. And it was kind of good. You'll see. You'll see. You'll watch it, and it's kind of interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah, and they're going into some unique places, too. So it's kind of good. It's a little different anyway. And nobody's got good hair. And they're not wearing any designer clothes or anything like that. It's just sort of done. They just kind of go in and do it. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, that is nice. That's different.
Well, it's just kind of fresh. It's taking it back to what it
And that's what we need. We need fresh. We need to take it back. We need to kind of remember what the paranormal investigation was all about. It's not about the hair and the tan and
the formula. Doing all this, and they have to have the screams and all that stuff going on.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And people throwing rocks at them and stuff. That's always
someone out in the corner, just like you can't see them. They're just ping, ping.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. Well, that's the newest thing with your ghost, Zach, because Aaron, the other guy.
Yeah.
They fired him, hey?
No, Aaron is still with the show. That was actually a
that's
rumor
fake?
that was going. That was fake. That was a rumor. He actually, at the time the rumor came out, he was actually overseas with Zach filming. The only one that I know of so far that has decided to leave the show was Nick, and he did that of his own accord. He didn't actually get fired or anything.
He wants to do his own thing.
Yeah. So as far as I know, Aaron, and Aaron's such a big teddy bear of a guy. I think he would be so awesome on his own show. He is a genuinely nice guy, and but he's still with the show as far as I know.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I mean, there's so much bad information on the internet.
Yeah, I know. That's why I always have to go straight to the source and just make sure. So, like, if you ever hear that there are nudes of me out there anywhere, it's not true.
It'll be on your
Nobody wants
site.
to see that. Nobody wants to say. I don't want to traumatize anybody, so you're never going to see that. Don't worry.
It'll be on your site if it's anywhere.
If it ever happened, it would be right on my site. Exactly.
And you can get her sex tape at... And she's with Tommy Lee.
KimKardashian.com.
Yeah. Oh, and she's oiled down. Ooh. I mean, that
break the internet.
Well, and that says it all. When you turn on the news and that's the headline story.
Yeah, you have
the same time they land on the moving comet.
Exactly, and that's
but so yeah, but
yeah, the comet actually got more hits on Twitter and Facebook than the Kim Kardashian. So while the media was all loving Kim Kardashian, the real people were actually interested in that really big moment where we landed on a moving comet.
Well,
so
that should be. I just don't know why the media's.
I don't know. You know what? I think that maybe her butt has some kind of like an LSD effect where you don't necessarily have to touch it to get affected. You just have to look at it, and then people are suddenly like drugged or I don't know, because I don't see the appeal to her to begin with. I mean, you would have to be high to really love her, I think. Yeah. I'm going to get so much hate mail all of a sudden because there's so many Kim Kardashian fans. But well, did you hear recently she cropped her baby out of a selfie? Because she didn't want her baby messing up her selfie, so she cropped her baby out of her selfie.
Wow.
That tells you all there is to know about Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Says it all. Wow. Well, it's certainly been interesting.
Yes, it has been.
And that's just about all we have time for.
Thank God, eh?
Yeah, before they take me off.
Yeah, the audience are just like, oh God, please, I hope she's almost done.
No. They like to send in emails. They don't like to.
Yeah. So know your hate mail to Facebook.com/Paranormal Ronin.
Yeah, please. Well, thanks very much.
Well, thank you for having me. This was a lot of. Oh, excuse me. This was a lot of fun. It's been a while since I've been on Z Talk, so
wow.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do it again. Maybe if you have another book coming up, we can do it then.
That'd be fantastic. Well, thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.